you all and the people checking in the back, stop for a moment and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, which is over there. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We are here to participate in the deliberative session of an SB2 town meeting, school district meeting in this case. The format and purpose of this meeting is to determine what will appear on the ballot on March 11th when the town and all of you voters go to the polls to vote. We don't decide the final disposition of any of these articles. We simply review the articles, we can debate them, we can discuss them, and we can amend most of them, not all of them. We'll talk about the ones where we can't, and modify what will appear on the ballot on March 11th. But final disposition will result from the voting that occurs on March 11th. You all have, if you are voters, could someone hold it up because I didn't get one. I'm not planning to vote. Those things, yes. If you don't have one of these ballots, they are being given out in the back of the room. There is a black line through these. There's a story about the fact that these are not specially printed school district ballots. These are actually the ballots that the town would otherwise be using and will be using. And that black line is to discourage anyone, I probably shouldn't even tell you this, but to discourage anyone from secretly taking one of your ballots and taking it home with you and bringing it back to the town meeting and using it at the town meeting and cheating on your vote there. So you're being watched very, very closely, and the supervisor of the checklist and our town clerk were very helpful in giving us the ability to do a ballot vote, and that would be done by secret ballot if we have a group calling for that. Requires 5 people to call for a secret ballot, and all of that is summarized in the very back of your book, where, for those of you who've not been doing this for a long time, the last printed page in your book is the town and school meeting procedures. You can read those over, but the single most important thing is that whatever is in those rules or whatever ruling I make, you can overrule. You simply raise your hand and say, point of order. Mr. Moderator, I don't like what you're doing. I want to do it differently. And then we will vote to see if you wish to overrule the moderator. So yes, I'm the moderator. You elected me to that position. Yes, I created that set of rules from rules I've seen in other towns and our own little quirks here in Madison. There's nothing that we do here tonight that you can't modify. It is your meeting and you are the power here. Tonight we will be focusing on the school district warrant. It's on the second page of your book. We are low on books. If you don't have one and need one, please buddy up with someone, and we'll try to make sure everyone can keep up. So if you take a look, it says page 3 on the top right-hand corner of that page, and the first session of the annual meeting is what we're here for, the warrant, the deliberative session of the school meeting. And the second session will be on March 11th, as I said, when the final warrant will be voted on at the polls. And so we're going to begin to go through the articles one at a time. Again, nothing needs to change. We don't need to vote on anything unless someone proposes an amendment to one of these articles. The first article is simply to choose the officers. There's nothing to be modified there. So we're ready to go right into Article 2, which I will read. Shall the school district? Yes.
Do you want to introduce?
Yeah. Why would I not introduce those people? I introduced myself, but apparently I didn't care about any of the other people who are up here. Sharon, I apologize. Sharon Schilling is the chair of our Advisory Budget Committee. Could you introduce your fellow members?
To my left is Ron Force, member of the Advisory Budget Committee. To his left is Joe Dane, who is the vice chair of the Advisory Budget Committee. We do have a couple members who are absent tonight. Joy Gray is the selectman's representative. Having an electrical meltdown, so I mean, literally in her house, so she couldn't be here. She has an emergency going on. And then Rick Judkins, who is out of town for tonight, and she'll be back later.
Thank you very much. And to my right, we have Jim Curran, who is the chair of the school board. And he's got the budget committee outnumbered up here. Could you introduce the folks that are aligned with you?
Yes, so to my left is Sloan Jarrell, the school district clerk. To my right is Ed Robinson, school board member, Sarah DiMartino, school board member, Dr. Michael Whalen, superintendent of schools, Heather Sherwood, business administrator for SAU 13, Heather Woodard, next, yep, principal at the Madison Elementary School. Then we have Matt Upton, attorney for the school district, Lisa Dubois, special services director for SAU 13, and Luke Bergeron, IT director for SAU 13.
Thank you, and thanks for stopping me from missing out on that. But we are ready to go. It's a pretty crummy night out, so we want to get you home at a reasonable hour. If we take a look at Article 2, which is where we will start tonight, shall the school district raise and appropriate as an operating budget, not including appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted separately, the amount set forth in the budget posted with the warrant or as amended by vote of the first session, that's this one, for the purposes set forth therein, totaling $7,284,200. Should this article be defeated, the default budget shall be $7,190,421, which is the same as last year with certain adjustments required by previous action of the school district or by law, or the governing body may hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA 4013, 10, and 16 to take up the issue of a revised operating budget only. The school board recommends this appropriation 500. The Advisory Budget Committee does not recommend this appropriation 240. That's where this is one where if the budget that the school board has built, the first number that's in there, the $7.2 million number, is defeated at the polls on March 11th, then the default budget, which is computed in a interesting way, $7,190,000 will in fact be the budget under which the school district operates for the coming year, unless we or the school board petitions to go before and have a special meeting to address that reduced budget in this particular case. So what we do tonight is to determine whether we like the first number. You can't change the second number. You don't have the power under SB2. But we can change the first number as we see fit, and we can debate, discuss, and ask questions about the items in the first number. If you look, Jim Curran, at a page that's sideways in your book, near the middle of the book, and it has rows, and it's entitled School District Proposed Budget by Function, 2526.
Page 37.
Well, it says page 37. Is it actually page 37? Doesn't matter. It says page 37 on the top, though. We can review that line by line, or you can jump around as you see fit. I'll start by asking Chairman Curran to begin walking us through the numbers and simply briefly highlight any particularly interesting numbers that are in there.
I can do that. So I have my own little sheet here just to kind of go through. Basically, can you hear me? Okay. Basically to go through any functions here. So salary and wages is the 100 functions, and that is...
I apologize. I'm going to stop you. So you're not doing it by the categories that are in this page. You're doing it by the much more detailed budget that's spread throughout here.
So it's broken down. I've got it broken down more of like salary lines in total.
Gotcha.
Like me to go through here? I'm happy to do that.
No, let's do it as you see fit. Why don't you simply talk about the highlighted items?
Okay. So salary and wages. We've condensed all the substitute lines to one throughout the budget, which is a reduction of about $1,700. We did reduce a student support staff, which was 0.4% FTE, full-time equivalent. We did reduce a 0.5% RTI teacher, and then we did add, there is an addition of one paraprofessional for a charter school student need. That flows into the benefits line, so there's an increase in the benefits.
Mr. Curran?
Yes.
I'm sorry. You said 0.4% and 0.5%. You didn't mean that. You meant a 0.4 position was eliminated, a 0.5, half a position was eliminated, not percent.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So in the budget lines, in the salary lines, that's a reduction of $35,588. Under the benefits line, which flows with that, that includes benefits for the additional paraprofessional. This is not listed in the budget anywhere. It's kind of flowing through everything. The additional benefits is up $71,869 due to that increase and some census changes. Purchase services is a decrease due to no out-of-district preschool.
Okay.
This is, I can go line by line. Okay,
Yeah,
sure. So then I think it would be,
what page would you prefer to work from?
I'd say we go line by line.
In
On
page-
page 42.
Well, I'm going to encourage you to,
Brief.
very brief.
Okay.
And in defense of Mr. Kern's approach, rather than in the functional areas that were on the page that we normally have gone through, he was making the point of looking at the actual expenditure categories so that, for example, salaries and benefits are scattered throughout the different functional areas. And rather than talk about each functional area, regular education, special education, and so on, he was talking about the type of expenditure, salaries, wages, benefits, and so on. So go ahead, Mr. Curran.
Okay, so wages, it starts it off, you'll see under teachers' wages, a decrease of, in the dollar variance category, of $93,746. This is what I referred to as the 0.4 student support services and the 0.5 RTI, thank you. Then you have your retirees is down. Substitute wages, right here is where it is increased. And then further on in the budget, you'll see decreases. We've just added it all to one function line here to better allocate that out. So there is a $1,700 decrease at the end under all substitute lines. Then moving down, so your health stipend, your health insurance teachers is down $12,000. But as we flow down the page, teacher retirement is down as well. I do want to reference that there are no staff raises for collective bargaining employees in this budget here, because there's a separate warrant article for the collective bargaining agreement, so I think that's clear to be stated. All of your salary-related benefits stay the same. On the middle of page 2, you have your middle school tuition. Middle school tuition is up $298,859. Then you have your high school tuition, which is down $180,773. Flowing through, everything else is unchanged there. Going to the top of page 44. No big changes there. Computer equipment was just some small equipment that were needed, some computers and things like that in the school to get some staff off of personal devices onto school devices. Then we go on to paraprofessional wages para. This is an increase here due to a need at the charter school in Conway. So it's an addition of one paraprofessional there. Then you have all of your salary-related benefits related to that flowing down. Contracted services on the top of page 45 is a decrease of $39,000, and that's the decrease partially due to the preschool, no out-of-district preschool students. Then we go down to function 1290 is your ESY, that's level funded. Co-curricular is
ESY is,
extended school year.
thank you.
Co-curricular wages, that encompasses the drama program, thank you. Then we go down to guidance, Office of the Guidance Counselor. There was a change in staff there this year, so that census changes only. Up to the top of page 46 is the nurse, which is census changes only there as well. Psychological services, this is a contracted service. There's no change there. Then we have the function of the speech pathologist. Small census change there, not a change in staff. Top of page 47, physical therapy services is down based on need. Then we go down to occupational therapy services, which is increased based on need, correct, Lisa? Yes. Thank you. Wages, curriculum development is all level funded. Teacher tuition reimbursement, this is increased based on past expenditures, and that is in the collective bargaining agreement that they are reimbursed for courses that they take. Improvement of instruction is down. Staff travel reimbursement is down as well. That's partially due to the fact that a lot of the courses that are able to be taken now are remote, so there's less travel reimbursement needed there. Wages, educational media is level funded. Top of page 48. School board is level funded with $2,000 decrease for the GASB, which is a biannual audit that we have to do. So every year it comes in, every other year it comes out. Then we go down to the office of the principal. There is a increase there. The principal is not part of the collective bargaining agreement, and that is a, what percent raise? 2% raise in there, thank you. And then the administrative assistant is a 3% raise based on policy, and that is the 3.94 in there, if you see it's different, is because of a number of days was missed last year, so they were just corrected in here. Flowing down, no other changes there. Wages, custodians. Head custodian is a 3% increase and not covered by the collective bargaining agreement as well. Health insurance, just trying to flow through. I think that top of page 50. Contracted services is up just based on pricing and changes right now. Building refurbishment, that $50,000 out, that was for the playground that's been done, so that was removed from the budget there. Everything else is basically level funded. Fuel oil is down $10,000, but you will see propane increased. The new heating system in here runs off of propane, so we figured there'd be less oil usage and more propane usage. You'll also see in the food service that propane was removed because it's one big tank out back, so it's covering both now. Interest on debt is the bond, and principal on debt the same thing. Transfer to food service is an increase here of $45,000, and that is basically at the end of the year, the food service budget needs to balance out to zero with all of the income, and we did increase the food service worker from 0.4 to 0.6, is that correct? To be able to offer benefits, to be able to attract a candidate for that position. And that is the bottom of the general fund, which is an increase of 2.23%, or $155,428. Then you just move down into the food service. Food service wages is an increase of 12.83%. There was a raise for the food service director, and that also covers the increase from 0.4 to 0.6 of the food service worker as well. So it's not a 12.83% raise for any one person. Then you have your salary-related benefits. And down at the bottom, food service budget has an increase of $18,196.41, which is a 14.26% increase. But again, that is also rolled up into that $45,000 addition for the food service fund transfer. Was that quick enough, I hope?
It was quick and probably fairly mysterious to the audience here. It is challenging. These folks spend many, many hours doing this. We had a pretty lengthy budget hearing for this, and then of course the budget committee does its review of it, as well as the staff, of course, helping to build all aspects of this. So there is an awful lot here, and there's a microphone right there, and so I'm going to encourage anyone who wishes to speak at length, or even wishes to speak at the microphone, but you don't want to do that, do you? Yes. Oh, okay. Yeah. Please feel free to line right up there. Thought I already had a rebel in the group here.
I have a question. Is this on? Do you hear me?
Holly will keep tweaking it. Go right ahead. Talk away.
Can you hear me now? Okay. This question is for Jim. Based on previous meeting, it's about the 0.4 and the 0.5. I want to say it correctly, not whatever. The 0.5 position and the 0.4 position. From previous meetings that I've gone to, my understanding was you didn't really, I understand it's good. It's a decrease because you're not funding those again. But you didn't really eliminate the.
They can't hear you.
Oh, could you crank up? Okay.
Can you? I feel like
Yeah.
a singer now.
Yeah, no, you look exactly like Taylor Swift from here.
Okay. Let's try again. I'm addressing the 0.4 and the 0.5 positions that have been eliminated by the school board. At previous meetings that I've gone to, my understanding was the reason you got rid of one was because you couldn't find anybody to fill it, and the reason you got rid of the other one was because someone resigned sometime before Christmas. And those, the way I understand it, were both certified teachers. So you must be saying that, and in the RTI department, I think both of them, maybe not, you must be saying you as school board do not feel there's the need for that extra help for those students that those two part-time positions would have worked with. Am I correct in assuming that?
So I'm going to defer down the line here. Heather, do you want to, or Mike, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah.
The .5 position was filled earlier this year. Someone did resign. We were not able to fill that. The .4 was .4 budgeted through the operating budget. .6 was through Title I funds. We reallocated those Title I funds this year to bring in a evidence-based ELA program called Wit and Wisdom that we've been implementing, and with the professional development support. We also this year have revamped our support system. There is a page in the book about that we have revamped how we are providing intervention services for students and supporting them. Our whole behavior model, which is what that student support person was doing, has been shifted this year. with very positive, great results.
Thank you.
I'll try to get close enough here. Ned Rogerson, I'm curious why the Budget Committee voted the way it did on the budget.
So
Please speak into the microphone if you would.
Oh, no, I got a loud enough.
No, we want it recorded, though, for the viewers. Oh, there's a switch.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah. Slide it, yeah. No, that's not it. I'm sorry. There it is. Let's try that. There you go.
You can hear me now? Okay. The Advisory Budget Committee voted 2-4 against recommending this warrant article. One of the things that we did at the very beginning of the budget cycle was to make a recommendation and we did it to both the town and to the school, which was in this environment, in this economic environment, one of the things that the state did was the previous governor, asked all of the municipalities and all of the state organizations to either level fund or consider a decrease in their funding or in their budgets. Given that that's what the state wants to do, we took that same advice and tried to apply it to both the town and to the school's budgets. I recognize that due to the negotiated agreement, there are some things that we can't reduce. Salaries are pre-negotiated, we can't reduce them this year or any of the next 3 years should that negotiated agreement pass and be approved. But there are places and there are things that can be reduced. And we asked the school board to really look at those things and really take a good hard look, sharpen your pencil and see what you can do. This budget comes in above last year's budget. It comes in above what last year's approved budget was, and so would the default budget would be above. The default budget, to a certain extent, would be above due to those salary increases. One of the things that we also looked at was the fact that across the board within the school, there's a lot of areas that probably need analysis, good, deep analysis, to recognize how many teachers do we actually need considering the number of students we have physically in the school. When that changes, are we in a position to be able to flex, so to speak, in order to make sure that we can accommodate those students? The staffing levels we looked at are pretty close. There might be room for 1 or 2 teachers, but then that gives you no room to flex. So the biggest culprit at this particular moment is also inflation. Inflation, all the costs of goods have gone up, all of the cost of services, utilities, those things have gone up. The issue becomes, are we budgeting for what we need versus what we want? And the Advisory Budgets Committee's stance was that there is enough what we want as opposed to what we need, that it caused that budget to go above last year's and go above what we thought was relatively reasonable for an increase. Now, don't get me wrong, we're not looking at just the budget too, this piece of the budget. When you count the whole thing, the budget and the warrant articles, you're talking about an almost 4% increase from the previous budget. And that was, in our opinion, that's a little too much in this economic time. We have senior citizens, we have people who aren't senior citizens who are struggling to pay their taxes and are struggling to make choices between taxes and food on the table and heat this winter. Putting the economic burden on them of increasing taxes over what we've spent just this past year is in the ABC's position to be kind of a non-starter.
Thank you.
And a real hard look at these budgets hasn't necessarily taken place over the last several years. And it's time that we need to do that. We absolutely have to delve deeper. We have to pull it apart. And we have to really look at where the money is going and what's happening to it.
Thank you. I have not been enforcing the 2-minute limit either on our chair of the school board or chair of the budget committee, but I will from now on. Let's make sure we are somewhat briefer. Go ahead.
Okay, I'll try to keep it to 2 minutes or less. To just add on to what Sharon shared with you. Yes, sorry about that. To add on what Sharon just shared with you, let me give you some specific numbers. Last year.
A little closer and louder.
Okay. Last year's cost per student in the elementary school was $33,750. This year, in the book that you just got tonight, or prior to tonight, it is up to $41,580. That's cost per pupil in the Madison Elementary School. That is a 23% increase from last year. And I know the school board has reasons for that, but in our mind, that's too much. And also, too, that this year's budget, if you add up all the warrant articles, and the school has a little bit different way of adding up the cost of the warrant articles, but there's 2 warrant articles that specifically say that they're not going to ask for additional taxation. That does not mean that you're not paying for it. So you're going to be voting either tonight or on March 11th on these warrant articles that are going to spend taxpayers' money. They're all going to spend taxpayers' money. Those warrant articles total just over $8 million for the first time for the Madison School District, which includes the elementary school, the middle school, and the high school. So that's another reason why we decided to not recommend this particular budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Deborah Parsons. I just have a question first for the moderator. Does the article need to be moved before an amendment is proposed?
No.
Okay.
Because there doesn't have to be any action taken on it, so there's not. The only motion that would be appropriate now would be to make the amendment.
Okay, so I would like to make a motion to amend the number.
Can you give me just 1 second? Let's get everybody on the same page, that page 2, and on the bottom of that page where the number currently is $7,284,200, and you're proposing an amendment to that number, I think.
Yes?
Okay.
To $7,024,200.
$7,024,200, which is a difference of $160,000. 200. I'm sorry. Yes, the math teacher
Mr.
fails again.
Moderator.
$260,000.
I'm shocked.
So you're moving to make that amendment. Is there a second to that motion?
I second.
Yes. So the number, thank you, is that's in the book now, $7,284,200. The motion is to amend that number to $7,024,200. 7024. And we have a second to that motion. So that motion is now on the floor, and we will ultimately vote on that. And the person who gets to speak first as to the rationale for that amendment is you, Ms. Parsons.
Okay, I know I have 2 minutes, so I'm going to kind of be brief, and then if people need more clarification, I'm allowed to come back up, right?
And answer questions that people raise? Sure.
Okay, so my reasoning for the proposal of that amount is because I believe that Madison Elementary is overstaffed, and consistently in recent past, the end-of-year fund balances have been coming in well over hundreds of thousands of dollars, indicating that there probably is a little padding on the budget that can be trimmed. So in essence, those are my major points. I could get into more clarification if need be.
You have time if you want to go into a little bit more detail.
Well, if we just go off of the question earlier about the halftime RTI position, my concern is the trust that the taxpayers want to have in the budget when we go into the ballot box. And to know that a half-time RTI position was in the budget, a person resigned partway through the year, and there's no longer going to be an effort to fill it, is my understanding for the remainder of the year. Hence, that is why the position's being cut. But in my opinion, if there's no more effort to fill it this year, it tells me as a voter that that position have been in the budget to begin with from the year before. And I think this is a pattern of what happens. A 3-4 position was, it wasn't cut in the budget. It resulted from designing a position for a teacher, moving into that position, and then just filling the 3-4 teacher. So that tells me the prior year, the budget could have been cut by a teacher at that point in time. So it's that repeated. There is instances even prior to that where that is how the budget is dealt with. So it's hard as a taxpayer to have trust that this is a budget that has been reviewed and looked over and has foresight and really reflects what school district needs to provide the best education for students.
Thank you. Just so everyone understands what's happening, if in fact the dollar amount is reduced, the school board still has a very large degree, almost complete autonomy as to how they spend that $7 million. Now it would be $24,000, and in the end, they would make the cuts they determine were the most appropriate ways to make the cuts. Madison, both at the school board and the selectmen, have been good about specific reductions that people recommend. So, for example, if this $260,000 reduction involved the request to reduce these 3 positions and to cut something else, the school board, that would be reflected in the minutes. The school board typically would be responsive to that. But keep in mind that in the end, we're voting on a lump sum amount for that budget. But it's also appropriate to point out specific areas where you would recommend those cuts to occur. Just wanted to make sure everyone understood that. Further discussion with regard to the motion that's on the floor that we will be voting on. Questions that anyone has? Yes, and all people speaking should say their names when they speak.
At the beginning.
Close.
Okay, I'm very confused because at the beginning.
Name, remember that whole thing about saying your name?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Liz Dennis.
Okay. Taylor Swift, close to that microphone.
All right,
Okay,
sorry.
good.
I'm tall.
You can take it out and hold it in your hand.
That's more complicated. I'm just confused because at the beginning I thought that you said the number that was in question was the 7,284,000, and that the 7,190,000 could not be
Right.
touched or whatever. So I'm
Okay,
confused.
so
This
the
number-
7,190,421 is the default number that the school board and the administration have created following the way the SB2 law works. And that's what that reference down below is, same as last year with certain adjustments. And of course, that they make a number of adjustments to last year's budget, and the number they came up with was 7,190,000. That can't be changed. Not here tonight by this group. The other number is wide open for amendment, and that's what Ms. Parsons is proposing, is that number be reduced. In this particular case, if this group votes to lower the number to the 7,024,000, the much lower number, then in this case, the default budget would be higher than the number that would be, the first number that would appear on the ballot. And if you voted yes on Article 2, you would actually be voting for the lower number, And if you voted no, you'd be voting for the default budget, which would be the higher number. That's a little bit unusual, not impossible. It's happened before. The original article that we have here, the higher number is the first number, and you'd be voting yes if you wanted the higher number.
Got it.
I don't know if the young lady in the back understands this, but this is her future that we're talking about here. Was that clear? Did I explain that reasonably, competently? Okay, I don't know. All right, there we go.
Nan Bartlett. I'm a 40-year resident of Madison, just a little background.
Right by that microphone.
50 years plus in the nursing profession, retiring in 2019. The last 29 years of nursing I spent here at Madison Elementary as a school nurse. And I want to speak and I want to fully support the amended dollar figure. I personally came up with a much higher figure, and I'll get into that, but I want to express first my concern. We have the school board voting 5-0 to recommend, and we have over here a difference of opinion. My concern with the school board is we have 3 school board members who have spouses that work in this building. So I guess my question, isn't there a little conflict of interest? And shouldn't these 3 school board members abstain? Because, you know, with this article, they are personally benefiting from salaries and the additional benefits that their spouses. So I guess I need to point out to the voting public, we have 3 school board members who have spouses that work here.
Before we go on,
Okay.
I'd give them the opportunity to comment on that. It might be worth noting, too, for everyone, that if you look at Article 4 on the next page, you'll note that that article, which has to do with approving raises for some employees, that it appears that the vote of 302 did involve 2 school board members abstaining. I just wanted to note that, but not here. Okay, just want to make sure. Would anyone on the school board, no obligation? Does anybody want to comment on that?
Is it on? Yeah. So, yes, my wife does work here, and the 7.5% is for everyone, and I know, it's okay. No.
I'm sorry.
So all town positions on
Sorry.
every board are elected by the public. And we are
Correct.
a very small town. I've run unopposed twice. That's all I'm gonna say.
Thank you.
My,
Would you like to comment? Go ahead.
my wife also works for the school district and has for 17 years. And I agree with Ed, we're voting on an overall budget. When it comes to anything related to my wife's position in this school, I have abstained from any votes there, and I will continue to do so.
Thank you. Why don't you continue?
Oh, okay. My second concern is that the year-end fund balance as June 2024 was $298,000. 2.5% was voted by the school board, which amounts to $175,000, was placed in a contingency fund for unanticipated expenses. Now, the playground used up some of that money. I guess that was an unanticipated expense. However, this reduced number of 260 is already less than that balance, ending fund balance from last year's budget. In other words, you didn't spend $298,000 on last budget. You put it over here. You took a little bit out of it to put in your, you know, for unanticipated funds. And so I guess my concern is with this, and I agree, the budget is way too much, and so that's a second concern. So I guess we'll have to wait and see what this year's balance is. And then I stated earlier, the amended figure of 260 is too low in my estimation. It was based on 1 teacher, 2 paraprofessionals. And when I did the sort of adding up, the teacher is 112,000. Paraprofessionals from the finance department at the SAU was salary, benefits, whatever, was 74,000. So if you did just the 2 paraprofessionals, the number comes in around 260, which was the amended. Mine, or actually, if you were to add a 3rd para, you're up over 334. Now, I'm not amending. I'm going to go with the 260. I think it's a fair compromise, but just to make note, and I'm not sure of, okay.
Yep, final sentence? You want to wrap it up?
Do I want to wrap it up? I just want to state that this town, it's been at least 15 years, it has always supported small class sizes. We've never questioned that. We support it year after year after year. And I think what is happening, they're going to say we cannot reduce a teacher because 5-6 may explode next year. That's the rationale. I heard it at the hearings, and then I heard it again at the special school board meeting, that we cannot reduce staff because we may get this or we may get that. Using your current numbers, you are within school board policy to reduce a teacher. And
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Next. Go ahead.
Linda Haver. I just want to say that I was a teacher for 35 years, 7 years at Kennett Middle School, High School. At that time, it was 1. 28 years here as a special education teacher. I fully support the amended amount that Mrs. Parsons brought up. And I want to say that I'm concerned of some of the talk that I'm hearing around town. The last time that I came to the school board about a budget issue, it was to ask them to put another position in. I was asking them to add a special ed teacher because they cut all the special ed teachers down to 1. And what they said to us when we complained, and we met with Jim, we met with administration, and what they said to us was, make it work. I didn't make it work, I retired.
Thank you. Any comment from over here?
So I wanted to address, and Heather Sherwood, can you correct me here? When you're referencing a $290,000 fund balance from last year, that also includes the 2.5% that we held in reserve the previous year that rolls back into that as well. So it was not, so our 2.5% can't stay year after year. So whatever that 2.5% was is rolled into that number as well.
Thank you. I understand. Other comments or questions? We have someone else who's coming to speak.
All right, I'll sit down.
Hello, Anna Gross. I'm actually wondering if I can ask a question about the proposed reduction of $260,000. I think everybody here is hopeful that what is being proposed is within the best interest of the children in our community. Yourself mentioned we have a young child here, this is her future. I would like to know, or pose the question of, how is a reduction of $260,000, which really is a reduction in staff, really just explain to me how those reductions truly benefit the children that attend this school, because if that's what we're here to focus on, that's what I'd be interested to know. Thank you.
Thank you.
I fully support education. I fully support the kids in our town. When I retired 6 years ago, there were 135 children in this building. Things were very different. I understand that things are different now, I truly do. But our numbers in this building are very small. I think that I personally, and if you know me, I think you know would be the case, I would never recommend or support a recommendation that I felt would be detrimental to children in this building. The town has always supported small class sizes. I think that you can stay within your small class sizes and still, and it's up to you. We're not telling you what to cut. It's just that figure. And the rationale, we spent hours and hours trying to figure out. I don't feel old, but I am because I'm having trouble paying my taxes.
Thank you. What's the current enrollment in the building?
111?
Thank you.
113.
Yes, please. It's our principal.
So we update in the board packet every month for enrollment. Currently, we have 113 enrolled. We are anticipating one more to join after February break because it's a natural transition time for that child. And in addition, we have 3 children that are coming to the 5-6 class next year. We have confirmation from their families moving up. So that puts us at 48 students for 5-6 next year.
Thank you. Yes.
I thought maybe I broke it. So to speak specifically to the 260,000, I didn't want to give a specific area because I feel that's the board's prerogative is to decide where that money comes from. But as I examine the budget and the things that possibly be cut, one teaching position was something I considered. That means with the current numbers, 2 classes of 5-6 students at 20 and 19. And I know at the last hearing, the rationale for keeping those class sizes lower would be that this was a COVID, still a COVID impacted group of students. And so we want to give them one last shot before they move on to the middle school. I would emphasize that 20 and 19 is well within the school board policy. So the school board itself believes with its qualified staff that it can provide a high quality education within those numbers. Also taking into consideration the class sizes of that 6th grade group. In kindergarten, they were in a class size of 11 and 12. In 1st grade, they were in a class size of 14. In 2nd grade, 13. 3rd grade, 14. 4th grade, 13. 5th grade, 14 or 15. So we have given them a pretty big shot with those class sizes. And so I feel that if we hadn't made significant impact on their education to this point, it has to be due to something else besides class size. And that's not going to be addressed by keeping the class sizes low in the future. The other thing is,
Quickly.
the paraprofessionals, we heard at the last meeting that there are 5.4 paraprofessionals working with students K to 6 currently. And the proposal is to have 7. So that's not only not status quo, it's increasing the number of paraprofessionals, and that I don't think has ever been made clear. So that would be another place where cuts could be made.
Thank you. Yes. Yes.
I just want to say again that the projected 5-6 class for next year now is 48. So the numbers that Ms. Parsons is referencing is old, so it's always a moving target. Right now we have 48 students that we anticipate in 5-6 next year.
Just so I'm clear, the current numbers are the 2021 kind of numbers that based on the number of students that are currently in those classes, and you're anticipating additional students coming. Are you anticipating any additional students moving away? No, at this time. Thank you. Yes.
I'd just like clarification on the number for 48.
So currently, we have 28 in 5th grade with one more joining after February break. We have 16 in 6th grade. We have 3 more students that I have confirmation, actually 4, but 3 in the 5-6 class that will be the next school year.
So currently, how many students are in 5-6, I guess is what I'm asking. Not anticipated currently.
Do you mean 4 or 5?
I mean 5-6, sorry.
5-6 right now
Yes.
there is 28 with one joining as soon as February break is over, and in 6th grade there's 16.
Thank you.
Other comments or questions? We're hearing from the same people, so we want to keep it moving. Shortly?
Okay, so I'm looking at next year, you're projecting, because we're getting 3 here, 2 there. We have a 4th grade level right now is 11, and you have 28 in grade 5, with parentheses around 1. So what, based on this, that is 39 on the books that are right now registered here at Madison, not the one that's coming in February, or not the 3 that are coming next school year. So, I mean, we can only go with the numbers you give us. They're not on the books. And I guess that's, you know, I'm supposed to be talking
39.
to you.
Yes, please.
39 right now with these numbers here are what is projected to be in the 5-6 grade next year.
Well, not necessarily projected, but what would currently, given
Right.
the students who are here,
Right.
yes.
Now, 3 could come in, 5 could go out.
Thank you.
Point.
Mr. Moderator, I did make a mistake in I was adding this year's 5 and 6. So it's really 43 is what we're projecting for next year.
4 and
Sorry
5.
about that.
I
did-
got one right. It makes me feel good. So
I was looking at the wrong number.
okay.
So yes.
So the starting point is at 39. Starting point without changes of consequence. Yeah, okay. Other comments or questions? Seeing none, we're about to hold a vote, and the vote will be on whether to amend, and yes, you can scamper up to the microphone, that'd be good. No, I see you. You're good. You're good. You don't have to knock down Mr. Rogerson. Go ahead.
And Liz Dennis again. So what I'm hearing from you guys is that you think that a 5-6 teacher, it would be okay to eliminate, would then make the class size without the addition of students for 19 and 20. And I have a parent of a child here who is in a classroom, I believe there's 13 or 14. Without the paraprofessional and the teacher in that classroom, my child would not be getting the care that she needs, because I'm not sure that her needs would have been necessarily, I think they might have been overlooked because the teacher would have potentially been overwhelmed with more students in the class, and then potentially also not having a para. I'm extremely grateful that she was picked up. I also work with special needs kids around the state. I am in a lot of schools throughout the state. That's just my job. I work in all different places. And I see kids every week that are not supported in the school system, and it totally breaks my heart. And I am so grateful for this school for being able to support my child in a way that I have seen other schools around the state not be able to do for their students. And so I just want to make that comment and let people know how important it is for these students to have attention.
Thank you. What is the current policy? First, second, and third grade, we want to limit the number of students to be how many?
K to 2 is 18 students maximum per classroom, 20 students in 3-4, and 22 in 5-6.
And our numbers have typically been comfortably below those maximums.
Correct.
Thank you. Yes.
Nicole Nordland. First, I want to thank Dr. Whalen for including the number of students that live in Madison that choose not to go to any of our public schools. We're falling right under about 15% of our population chooses to stay out of the public school if you look at page 61. I find that very important information as a taxpayer. But I would also like to request, make a motion to vote by secret ballot.
Okay, so in order to have that happen, we need to have 5 people who would like to have it done by secret ballot, and there's a process and people sign stuff. We don't care about that. We just want a show of hands. Are there 5 voters here who would like to raise their hand and support a secret ballot? So I see 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I got 5. Good. So we're okay. So that will be done. This will be done by secret ballot. And very briefly.
Yeah, I just wanted to answer your question or comment on your comment. I hear you. I appreciate you. I think that the students in this building, the 35 years 28 years I was here, always got a great education. I also had a son who was on an IEP from the time he was in first grade till he was in 7th or 8th. When he was in this building, he got excellent service. I was not teaching him. I was teaching a different level. I just want to be clear. Now I've lost my train of thought. He got excellent service. The number of kids in his classrooms back in those days was like 25, 30. And he still got, it really depends on the expertise of your teachers. Good teachers, good leadership makes much difference than money and class size. Of course, class size matters. We all agree with that.
Thank you.
Ned Rogerson, I think I know how the school committee feels about this, but having been a member of the budget committee for many years, I'm curious how the budget committee feels about it.
About what? The reduction?
About the reduction.
You don't have to comment, but if you'd like to, you may.
Do you guys have a comment? You want to comment? Or you want?
Microphone?
It's difficult to look at a reduction that's $260,000, understand exactly which lines that's going to come out of. Yes, the school board has the ability to make that decision. It puts them in a little bit of a constrained environment when it comes to this. It's difficult when you're dealing with individuals. I think that, don't get me wrong, I think it's a step in the right direction to make sure that we are reducing budgets where we can. Again, I'm a fiscal conservative. I think most of the people in this town are fiscal conservatives when it comes to spending their tax money. And so I think it's a step in the right direction. Is this the ultimate? Do we want this number? I'm not 100% sure until I would take a look at it and sit down and run numbers and do that Excel spreadsheet thing.
Thank you. Yes.
Michael Brooks, with a point of order, I think.
Yeah.
Is the secret ballot going to be on the amendment or the articles?
Only on the amendment. We do not vote on the articles, so we only have one pending vote, and I'll explain that in a moment. I'm about to do that because we are going to hold a vote. The vote will take roughly 5 minutes. So if you would pull out your ballots, and I'm going to cheat and look at somebody's here, or use it to hold up. You have letter A. If you have any other letter that you use, it won't count. But you're going to tear off letter A, the 2 the two pieces associated with letter A. There's an A no and an A yes. And you simply put one of those two pieces in the box by Town Clerk Brooks, who's in the back of the room. It is just a cardboard box. We don't have the nice wooden boxes here tonight. There's, I'm sure, a very good explanation that I'm not the least bit interested in, but we'll make sure that he guards it with great care. Don't peek a lot, but tear that off, tear it in half, put either the yes or the no in, and we'll have a hand count, and we'll take 5 minutes to do that. And what we're voting on is whether to reduce the first number in Article 2 from $7,284,200 to $7,024,200, a reduction of $260,000. And when we go on March 11th, then the voters on March 11th, you and anyone else who's there voting, will then be choosing between that new number and the default budget, or if you vote down this amendment, if you vote no, and you want to keep the bigger number here in Article 2, then they'll be voting between that bigger number and the default number. In either case, the $7,190,421, that will not change. It will only be the other number that changes. So if you want the higher number, the one that's printed in the book, vote no. If you want the lower number, you want the amendment, then you vote yes. You're voting for the amendment, which is the lower number. Lower number, vote yes. Higher number, vote no. Does anybody have any questions? Come on up and ask me if you do. Yes, sir.
Just a clarification question. If the article's voted down, it can't be brought back up again?
Sure it
Or
can. And we can talk about under
Not-
what condition.
Not the exact same, correct? Does it have to be
It
materially
actually could be, but that's not going to happen. I'll yell at them. They won't be allowed to do it.
Thank you.
So we are about to vote. If you have additional questions, you want to just come up and ask me, and you're embarrassed that you have no idea what's going on here, that's fine, and I'll embarrass you further. But yes, if you want the lower number, no if you want the higher number. Go vote by Mr. Brooks, please. You got a couple of minutes here to do it.
No, George, you have to give me that back.
Yeah, you were never going to see that again.
George count.
Is there anyone who has not yet voted? I'm about to declare the polls closed. The polls are closed. Mr. Rao, are you right there? Your people think you can count. Ms. Brooks, you can count too. So we'll have Mr. Rao and Ms. Brooks are going to count those ballots in the far corner of the room. Mr. Rao, if you're busy, tell me. But okay. Perfect. So we'll have the two people counting, and if you would take your seats, we're going to keep rolling. No, I guess we can't really keep rolling. I'm going to think about it. Yeah, we're going to wait, I think. I'm sorry. Let's see. Is there anything else we can do? No, we better not. Sorry, I'm going to keep you trapped here while they count those ballots. You are not being paid by the hour. Count fast. Mr. Rao, are you in that room with her? You and Ms. Brooks are disappearing into a back room. There we go. Mr. Brooks, you okay with that? So I'm announcing tonight we are passing a tariff against Tamworth. We're going to charge them for the SAU office, and we're going to make some money on it. So all is going to come out okay. I don't know why I said that. Is there anything anybody wants to talk about that's completely unrelated to the meeting? The trade, the basketball trade. Yeah, we could talk about that. No. It has? All right. I can't keep up. I'm just. It's been postponed. Okay. All right. I made a mistake. The last thing we need to talk about are tariffs. That was just wrong. That was a big mistake. What's that? The weather. It's ugly out there, and I want to keep this group moving along here. So when we get the result, regardless of whether the amendment passes or doesn't pass, we don't have to be done. Someone could get up and make an amendment for a different number. The question as to whether it could be, if it was defeated, bless you, whether it could be exactly the same amendment, I'd probably yell at you. That would not be terribly constructive. But if you want an amendment that cut it $100,000 because you thought that 260 was too much, or you wanted an amendment that reduced it $500,000 because 260 wasn't nearly enough, we can keep going, and that is certainly permissible. That is the role of the deliberative session, this session of SB2, is to determine what appears on the ballot, and we are going to do that. The school board gets their shot. That's what's printed in your book, and now we have the opportunity to alter that as we more or less see fit. I'll give you a heads up now so I don't waste time doing it. The next one, the next article, Article 3, if you take a peek, is the SAU budget. Tamworth, Madison, and Freedom all form SAU 13. The school board is the combined school board of those three towns, created this budget. We'll go over that article, but we are not permitted to amend that article because all three towns have to vote on exactly the same article, so we can't do one and Tamworth and Freedom are different. So thank you. Of course, it would be relatively close. The result is 35 people voted no, 32 people voted yes. So the article is defeated, and these are the originals. You could ask for a recount. Those numbers are not so enormous that I think these people would be off by 3, but if you ask for a recount, I would impose one. But otherwise, the article is defeated, 35 no to 32 yes. And the article remains on the floor. If anyone has any other amendments to make to it, please go to the microphone and propose one. Yes, sir.
Adam Price. Mr. Moderator, I'd like to ask that we amend that, I don't have the number.
The number that's in the book?
The number that's in the book up by $125,000 and advise or ask that the school board use those funds to replace the floor in this particular room.
Okay, so $125,000. Have you done the arithmetic? No. Heather, shout out the number for me. What's that?
That's what I have you for.
My performance so far with numbers hasn't been perfect yet. So 7, 3, 4, 0, 9, 200. Okay. So Mr. Price has made a motion that has not yet been seconded to increase the budget by $7,409,200. And I'm going to comment on it, but is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, so you know who you are, and you're going to put your name right in the book. So before I ask you to comment just a little bit further about the rationale for that, my legs as a basketball player would really appreciate a softer, more forgiving surface. This is a nasty little surface. Having said that, that type of expenditure historically has come from a warrant article, something that was either petitioned or placed on by the school board as a separate item, sort of a capital kind of thing along those lines. Would you mind commenting both on the rationale for why you are proposing this and why it should be done as an adjustment to the budget? You don't have to, but I'm asking you to.
So specifically why done in the budget, because I didn't petition a warrant article to do so. And that's my fault.
Come
Secondly,
closer to the microphone, though, if you would.
Secondly, we've had a number of students injured on this floor during basketball season, including one with a broken arm that put him out for the season last year. I happen to coach girls basketball in this particular school, and it's dangerous, and it hasn't been done.
I'm sorry, you have to call. I'll ask
The
you to
floor is
repeat.
dangerous, and it hasn't been done, I believe, since the building was put here.
Yep.
And it's time, and I'm tired of seeing kids get injured on it.
And I've coached in here, played in here, and kids get hurt on this floor. It's a rough floor. But having said that, are there other comments associated with it? Then we will vote. We'll vote with a hand vote if people don't want to do it. Yes, we do have a second associated with that. And so we'll at least send a message one way or the other. All those in favor of increasing the budgeted amount by $125,000 to $7,409,200, please raise your hand with your ballot in your hand, if you would. Thank you. All those opposed, please raise your hand. Put your hands down. I'm going to ask it a show of hands one more time before I do a standing count, because it was a little bit close, I thought. All those in favor of adding the $125,000, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please raise your hand. We're going to count by hand. Yes, you had a question.
Can I just ask, so I know currently we have this floor on the capital improvement plan for 2027. I mean, I know that's still 2 years out. What's that? No, I'm just really making the statement that it is there, and I do understand the need. And I would like to see it done. It's just expensive at this point.
Okay. I'm going to ask for a standing count. I'm going to ask Mr. Rao again. Where'd he go? He left the room. Okay. So you have this whole side of the floor, including in the back. Ms. Brooks, you have that whole side of the floor, yes? And that includes the front of the room. Please stand if you're voting yes to add $125,000 to the budget. Please stand if you're voting yes. I am not voting. Okay. Yep.
Just this side, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm one.
The gentleman in the back is.
Gary sat down, and the one standing in the back is yes.
23, okay. Please sit. All those in opposition to adding the $125,000, please stand. Again, do not count me. Yeah. 25. The ayes are 31. The nays are 31. Don't look at me like I'm the bad guy here. The moderator has the authority to vote at this point to break a tie, and if there was a difference if it was in favor by one, the moderator also has the authority to vote no and create a tie, which defeats the article. I don't vote unless I warn you ahead of time that I feel so passionately about a particular issue. I didn't do that, I'm not going to vote. So the vote is 31 to 31, and the article, or the motion to amend by adding the $25,000, excuse me, the $125,000 is defeated. A tie is defeated. And so, how to go, people? This is democracy in action. It's not pretty, and it's not quick, is it? But it is democracy in action. I think you certainly sent a message to the school board about the interest in the community to make this change. Yes, ma'am. Quickly.
Could I just suggest that we stick to the CPI, and if it is in that budget and it needs to be moved up by a year, I mean, I think this is a topic we know.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Article 3. I'm sorry. Are there any other motions, amendments, or discussion associated with Article 2, the budget? If not, the budget will appear, the Article 2 will appear on the ballot on March 11th as printed in your book. Then I hereby, sir, you're not going to the microphone, or are you? Okay, all right. Yeah, we don't allow people with crutches to go to the microphone. They don't move fast enough. Wow, that was completely inappropriate, wasn't it? I'm sorry. He looks pretty quick, though. I don't think there'd be any problem. I hereby declare that Article 2, as printed in your book, will appear on the ballot in exactly that format. Article 3, shall the voters of the Madison School District adopt the school administrative unit budget of $1,403,732 for the 25-26 school year, in which $442,499 is assigned to the school budget at this district. The school budget recommends this appropriation 500. The Advisory Budget Committee recommends this appropriation 411. This year's adjusted budget of $1,322,062 with $414,053 assigned to the school district budget shall be adopted if the article does not receive a majority vote of all the district voters voting in this administrative unit. So again, you have a budget that the SAU board has created, with Madison shouldering $442,000 of it, and by the combined votes of the three towns, then the number of $404,053 will be what Madison has to pay. This cannot be amended. You can ask questions or comments regarding this. Seeing none, Article 3 will appear on March 11th as printed. Article 4, if the school district approves items including like the bargaining school district and Madison Employees Association, which calls for the following increases in salaries and benefits at the current staffing level. 2026, $23,585, 27, 89,899, 28, 9,236, and further, raise and appropriate $123,585 for the current fiscal year, that's the 26th fiscal year, such sum representing the additional costs attributable to the increase in salaries and benefits required by the new agreement over those to be paid at current levels. School Board recommends appropriation 302. Two abstentions. The Advisory Budget Committee recommends this appropriation 501. Leave it at that. It's not, we could ask the attorney who's here, but I'm simply going to say, it's not really illegal for you to go in and say, I want to modify this, but it's not a good idea to do that. Essentially, this is something that was negotiated over a period of time. This, what the negotiating team come back with, is recommending to the town. If you don't like this agreement, then vote it down. If you do like it, vote it. But you're not in a position, if you amend it, to accomplish anything. You would send the negotiations back to the drawing table, and they would get started those negotiations, and it wouldn't be terribly meaningful if you did amend it. Mr. Upton, is that close enough? Close enough. Thank you. Okay. Please go to the microphone. Again, I'm asking for the microphone, not just heard, but so the recording can be seen.
Good evening, Don. I think I missed something. We had two amendments on Article 1.
Article 2.
Yes.
Yes.
Did we vote on the article or just the amendments?
Because of the SC form of government, we not vote on the actual article. We simply put it on the ballot in the was there. We vote on the amendments. Good question, but that's correct. Yes.
I appreciate we can change the numbers. I'm just suggesting that we put a pause on this article. I just want the taxpayers to appreciate that the total cost to taxpayers over the 3 years is $640,789 because it compounds. It's 123, the 90, and it keeps going up. So over 3 years, and we can't change it. So over the next 3 years, if this should pass, it's to a $640,000, 789 cost. We are also locked into a health insurance. Our health insurance costs, a family plan for an employee here at Madison Elementary is $44,000 a year. The school district pays currently 89% of that, which is $39,243. Now, granted, not everybody gets a family plan or whatever. That's the most expensive. We have talked for years about possibly looking into other health plans that are much more affordable in this day and age. So that's a negotiating issue. I appreciate also the health stipends have increased. So if you don't take health insurance as an employee of the district, you get a stipend. You get money that comes back to you because you don't. And I get it. It's much cheaper if somebody doesn't take that $39,000. But also philosophically, we're putting money in people's pocket. I think the health stipend is a really important negotiating piece when you're doing the CBA. Right now, health insurance costs 89% to the district, 89%, and 11%. The concession in this CBA was that the employees would pay 12%. I don't think that's a huge increase, and I think it's another negotiating piece. In the Conway School District, it's a 20-80. 80% by the district, 20% by the employee. It's my understanding The Postal Service, it's a 2080 as well. So again, it's a negotiating piece, and if we vote for this, now I'm not saying we don't give our teachers a raise. You know, I think if you put this on pause, vote it down at the ballot in March, and then you can renegotiate. And in that renegotiation, you could say, thanks for coming to school every day, doing a good job, and we'll give you $1,500 or $1,000 or whatever it takes to say, we appreciate the fact that you went without a contract for a year and you're willing to renegotiate. I think health insurance is probably the biggest thing.
Thank you.
Yep.
And that is the type of comment where is perfectly appropriate for this particular article, since we can't really amend it, but sharing your thoughts as to whether it should be voted up or down. Yes.
Cheryl Brooks. I had 3 kids go through this school. I think there's maybe 1 classroom teacher left from when my kids were here. But I will tell you this, my middle daughter is going to school to be an elementary school teacher. And in her first class at college, the professor said, do not teach in New Hampshire. And I think it's because of things like this. We can't nickel and dime our teachers. I don't want to see any teacher become a millionaire because nobody, I don't know what the answer is, but I don't think pulling money out of the teachers' pockets is the answer. I don't want to pay more taxes, I really don't, but at the same time, I think our kids deserve a good education, and I think they deserve the best possible teachers, and you're not going to get that if you pay them crap.
Thank you. No, we want people who have not yet spoken on this article to speak.
This is Anna Gross again. I just want to echo your sentiments entirely, that I have a concern that if we do continue to nickel and dime our teachers and make it not that an unattractive option, that I don't necessarily see a line of qualified teachers standing outside of the door of this school, and I certainly don't see a housing environment that is positive and welcoming to newly qualified teachers or even teachers able to move into this area. I'm very concerned with this messaging of taking and essentially nickel and diming. We're going to end up with a school with no teachers and nobody waiting to take the positions, and then what have we done to ourselves when, after all, lest we forget, with the #1 focus is having the best education for our students. We can't educate them if we don't have any teachers, because we're not prepared to compensate them appropriately, whether that be through financial or benefits. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa Ferguson, retired teacher who's back in because there are no music teachers in SAU 13, except for that retiree. So I've been in all 3 schools. I just want to say, and my kids all went through Madison. I was very excited to come back because my kids have all gotten a great education, but I don't know why. I don't know if it's the water. I don't know what's going on, but these kids are just amazing. So I just want to say that.
No, good. It's on the record. Thank you. Let the minutes reflect.
You know, and
Briefly.
I just would like you to, if you could refer to page 75 in your booklet, and you will notice the salaries and statutory benefits for all staff. And if you look down through that, I think, and I agree, teachers should be paid. I'm not arguing that, but if you look down through those numbers, you can't tell me that we're being unfair. Just to take a year, take a look at, and it's specifically the health insurance. Because they're not, the school board is not going to do it otherwise. We've asked several years.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. One next here, and then we'll go to the
Hi,
school board.
Jennifer Bent. I've been teaching now for 23 years. This is my 3rd year in New Hampshire. I taught in a southern state of New Hampshire. I took a pay cut to come to this state to work. I took a huge pay cut to come, but I came here because I love this community. I have worked in several different schools, and hands down, this is the best, most welcoming, family-oriented school that I have ever worked at. I've been in schools where we've had much larger class sizes. I'm a special ed teacher. I'm also a BCBA. And we've worked our tails off to get where we are. Yeah, I do okay. I'm very happy with my salary, but you know what? I've also paid probably twice my salary for the education that I have today. So to be a good teacher and a good special ed teacher, so.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. Yes. Heather, please.
Just wanted to say on the point of health insurance, the costs are rising. It is something we started looking at this year. I am relatively new to the SAU. This is my second year. Did find out that SAU 13 is written as a whole group. So it is not just Madison I'm looking to change. And all 3 CBAs do reference this plan or equivalent. So it's something that I'm working on. It is not a small lift, and it was not something I could get done this fall.
Thank you. Yes.
I just want to make one comment that I do believe that the teachers deserve the raise that negotiated in this agreement. That health insurance is something that I hope is looked at, even if this article passes, and that kind of maybe ties our hands for 3 years. But I do want to make the point that there has been a lot of staff that have left this district in the last 10 years. So retaining staff is a difficult thing. So we're not really succeeding at that yet. And I would just hope that we keep that in mind.
Thank you. Other comments or questions before we, yes.
Hi, Sarah Rodriguez. Just in my experience, I've worked in 2 other SAUs in New Hampshire. I am a nurse. I left the hospital, and just in doing that, to go to a school system, I took a pay cut over 30K. And I have thought multiple times about going back to the hospital, but the only reason for that would be the money. I love working with the students. That is what I love. Like, coming to work every day with a smile on my face and being happy and being with the students is just, it's huge. This is what I love. Staff turnover is happening everywhere. These are numbers, they're a little bit dated. They're as of January 24th. As of ED Jobs NH, which is the #1 site for school postings. Now it's the middle of the school year. There are 685 school positions open in New Hampshire. New Hampshire, that's it, 685. It's the middle of the school year. Like, this is crazy. Also, I've heard a lot of comparison to SAU 9. I used to work in SAU 9. Most of the people there are very unhappy. They're understaffed. They don't have, the positions aren't filled. Because no one wants to do them for that amount of money. So most teachers, most staff are doing twice or 3 times their own job just to try to get through the day. The staff turnover is everywhere. SAU 9, when I checked in the end of January, had 16 teachers, 6 of which were special education. They had paras. In all 4 Conway schools, it didn't even tell you how many para positions they had open, it just said multiple. But they had 7 listings for just SAU 9. So SAU 9, I don't think we should compare ourselves to. They're significantly lacking, as we can all see, yet Madison is a big reason the number for cost is going up is because Conway hiked their numbers up. And there's nothing we can do about that unless we send our kids somewhere else. But as of right now, the number is huge because we're sending to Conway. The kids here, I have never seen kids like this. Like I said, I've worked in 2 other SAUs. The kids in Madison make eye contact with you. They smile, they're kind, they have empathy, they have sympathy. They're so nice. These are the nicest kids I have ever seen, and I can't get over how much respect they have for everyone. And that's not just the teachers, it's not just the parents, it's everybody. That's the whole community. And that I've never seen. I've worked in 2 schools in SAU 9, and they're all in the Valley. I've never seen that. I've only seen that here in Madison, and it makes me so proud to live here. And everybody should be so proud of that. And the nitpicking, nickel and diming is just so frustrating and really sad, because
you.
these kids deserve the best that we can give them.
Thank you. Yes.
One more comment on the health insurance. Yes, the 3 CBAs do reference this health insurance or equivalent, and or equivalent is important. Even if this article is voted yes, we are not locked into that. It is not beyond the realm to do an MOU mid-year to get things changed if it makes sense.
If the union agreed to it. Thank you. Yes, sir. Just stretching? No, anyone who doesn't want to speak is my friend. Are there any other comments on Article 4? Seeing none, Article 4 will appear on the ballot as shown in your book on March 11th. Article 5, and just again, the comments that people have made here tonight being recorded, a lot of the Madison residents will see it, so it's good to be on the record with all these also very nice comments. Article 5, see if the school district will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of up to $10,000 to be added to the Special Education Capital Reserve Fund previously established. This sum to come from June 30 unreserved fund balance available for transfer on July 1st. No amount to be raised from additional taxation. No amount to be raised from additional taxation. The current special education CRF balance, excluding interest earned since 6/30/24, is $219,415. The school board recommends this appropriation 500. The advisory budget committee recommends this appropriation 600. Mr. Curran, just want to explain, and Mr. Force contributed to this, the rationale for the boldface word additional.
So additional was added at our last meeting, last 2 meetings, the public hearing and then the special meeting. It was brought to our attention that it would be beneficial to us to add the word additional taxation, so not to be raised from additional taxation, because this is an unreserved fund balance. But the reason behind it is that you're being taxed on it this year, so if there is fund balance, you've already been taxed on it, and this is not raising any additional money for that.
So the surplus that we might have at the end of this year can be used to fund this $10,000 or up to $10,000. If there is no surplus, it wouldn't be funded, and the surplus would come from monies that we've already raised by taxation, and that if this was voted down, then that $10,000 would be returned to the taxpayers.
Correct.
Thank you. Are there any discussion, comments on Article 5? Yes.
I just want to make the mention.
Microphone, please.
I just want to make the mention that this is one of the articles that the school board was very fiscally conservative. This originally was a $20,000 marker in here, but when they looked at and did the analysis and we talked about it, and they saw that there's $219,000 already in that fund, they were able to say, in this particular year, we're only going to request $10,000 instead of $20,000.
Thank you. Other comments with regard to Article 5? Seeing none, Article 5 will appear on the ballot as printed in your book. Article 6, see if the school district vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $50,000 to be placed in the previously established Building Maintenance Capital Reserve Fund. The current Building Maintenance Capital Reserve Fund balance including obligations and excluding interest earned since 6/30/24, is $140,235.07. The school board recommends this appropriation 500. Advisory Budget Committee recommends this appropriation 600. Are there any comments, questions, Fiscally, it's being managed much the same way as Article 5, but it's a different number and a different purpose. Mr. Price?
Does the school board anticipate using any of these funds this year for anything? The 140,000 that exists in there now?
So if you look on page 3839 is the current capital improvement plan. And that will list out the years in which things are anticipated to be expended.
All right, that being said, before I upset Mr. Moderator here, if I were to make an amendment for $125,000 to this particular article, could we replace the gym floor with those monies?
Yeah, use the microphone. Let's make it really clear what you're proposing, or asking about proposing.
I'm just asking that if I were to ask for an amendment to this article for $125,000, could those monies be used for the gym floor? As opposed to out of the operating budget?
So I'm getting a nod yes from the superintendent and the attorney. So yes, those monies could be used for that.
I said yes, so I don't care about them anyway.
Sorry, the moderator said yes. I didn't look at
I
that.
just wanted clarification before I upset you by making essentially
No,
the same
that's perfectly,
amendment.
no, I wouldn't be upset. So I don't want another tie vote, though, so I'm hoping someone left. So,
I'm just hoping we gave people enough time to think about it.
would,
So I would like to motion.
but before you do, Mr. Upton, I don't see any particular reason why a mention of the floor is necessary in this case, because it falls under the capital expenditure category, but the minutes can certainly reflect that that was the intent of the maker of the motion. So I'm asking you not to make some lengthy amendment. Simply, you're going to move to amend the $50,000 number to
$175,000.
Okay. You even looked at the ceiling to confirm that. I saw that. Okay. So we have a motion, but not yet a second, to increase the number in Article 6 from 50,000 to 175,000. Is there a second to that motion? A second to that motion? Yes, ma'am. Remy. So we have a motion on the floor to make that increase. I don't know that we need a lot of additional discussion, but if anyone has any additional comments or questions or complaints about this floor, please share them. Yes.
Sarah Rodriguez, school nurse. I just will say that there have been concussions, broken limbs. I have kids in PE class that fall and bump their heads every day, and I have to screen them for concussions, and it is just really, really sad that it's not safe.
Can I just ask, what kind of floor do you get for 125 grand? One of those rubberized things?
No. Yes. Is it rubberized? I think.
Yes, like North Conway Community Center.
Super floor.
Yeah.
North Conway Community Center. Yes.
Asia Morency, that was my question. Does 125,000 cover the whole project of replacing the floor, or would that just start the project?
Yes. Thank you. Okay, seeing no other questions, I'll start with a hand vote. All those in favor of the amendment to increase the $50,000 number to $175,000, please raise your hand. Thank you. All those opposed, please raise your hand. Motion passes unless anyone wishes to challenge it, and therefore the amount of Article 6 is amended to $175,000 with the minutes reflecting that it's the intent of the group to have it used for the replacement of this room's floor, the James Noyes Memorial floor. Thank you. Let's get Jim Noyes' name in here whenever we can think of it. He coached with me in here, and when he knocked me down on this floor, it really hurt. He was a super guy. Other comments or questions with regard to Article 6 before we move on? Then Article 6 will appear on the ballot on March 11th as printed in your book, with the exception that the dollar amount will be increased to $175,000. So it shall. Article 7, to see if the school district will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of up to $85,000 to be added to the building. I'm sorry, it's worth noting. Article 6 won't do anything if there's no surplus. Everyone needs to recognize that. There won't be a new floor here next year if, in fact, there's no, no, I take it back. Yeah, no. It's to raise and appropriate. I take it back. This one was not out of surplus. So this is going to get done, and when we're here next year, we'll be bouncing up and down. It'll be wonderful. Article 7, to see if the school district will vote to raise an appropriate sum of up to $85,000 to be added to the building maintenance capital reserve fund previously established. This fund to come from the June 30th unreserved fund balance available for transfers on July 1st. No amount to be raised from additional taxation. The current building capital maintenance fund, including obligations and excluding interest earned since 6/30/24, is $140,235. The school board recommends this appropriation 500. Advisory Budget Committee recommends this appropriation 600.
Yes,
And yes,
I'd like
please.
to make an amendment and amend it down to 35,000 in light of the amendment on the previous article.
So
It'll
we have.
greatly affect our capital plan going ahead.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to reduce the $85,000 to $35,000. Is there a second to that amendment? Thank you. And the rationale is that part of that money we just voted in the previous one would be used for the floor, and so we're going to reduce it in this second article. Okay. Everybody understand the rationale? We're spending it up front. We're paying it out of taxes. We're not crossing our fingers and hoping for a surplus in Article 6. And Article 7, we're limiting the amount we'll take out of surplus to $35,000 if this amendment passes. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of the amendment to reduce the $85,000 to $35,000, please raise your hand. Thank you. All those opposed, please raise your hand. Motion passes. The amendment passes. And so Article 7 will appear on the ballot on March 11th as it appears in the book, with the exception that the dollar amount will be reduced from $85,000 to $35,000. Article 8. Is this a test to see how cold this room can get while I'm standing here? Okay, all right, I'm just trying to make sure. We promised to leave soon, and we'll be finishing this up pretty quickly. Article 8, to see if the school district will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $25,000 to be placed in the previously established Madison Corner Schoolhouse Capital Reserve Fund. Current Madison Corner Schoolhouse balance excluding interest earned since 6/30/24 is $25,000. The school board recommends this appropriation 500. The Advisory Budget Committee recommends this appropriation 321. Any comment or discussion on Article 8? Mr. Price.
Does this 25,000 satisfy the need to do what we need to do with that building, or will there be another appropriation next year?
Please.
Refer to Nancy Martin, who's the chair of the
Yes.
Madison Corner Schoolhouse Committee, please.
There is a committee for this. Ms. Martin.
Committee, yes. Hi, Nancy Martin, the default chairman of the Corner Schoolhouse Committee. We received a quote for just the materials to abate the lead on the outside, the exterior of the building. Came in at $23,000. We were thankful to get $25,000 last year. So we're still at the beginnings of exploring grants and other funds that we can appropriate, but the $25,000 from the school district would finish the project on the outside, would stabilize the exterior of the building.
Thank you. I didn't realize that. Any other discussion with regard to Article 8? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor, no, we won't. No one made an amendment. We don't have to vote on anything. I was on a roll, though. Article 8 will appear in on the warrant on March 11th as it appears in your book. Article 9, shall we rescind the provisions of RSA 4013, known as SB 2, as adopted by the Madison School District on March 9th, 2002, so that the official ballot will no longer be used for voting on all questions, but only for the election of officers and certain other questions for which the official ballot is required by state law. 3/5 majority ballot vote is required. This, Mr. Upton, to my knowledge, is not amendable. This is statutorily ruled that this language, precisely as it is, has to be the way it appears on the ballot. Are there any comments or questions on this? And before I get a whole lot of those, there also has to be a separate hearing associated with this article prior to March 11th. And when will that be?
February 11th, 6 p.m. here in the gym.
6 p.m. Okay. So there is another opportunity to speak, but this is being recorded. Are there any questions or comments? I have one piece of information. I spoke up at the budget hearing when this was discussed, and I asserted that the attendance has dropped off substantially since SB2 was adopted in 2002. I went back to my 39 years of booklets and minutes from the various school meetings over time. And while there are a number of years in which there's no information in the minutes about the number of attendees, in many of the years there were. The average number of attendees prior to SB2 at Madison school meetings was 178. In the years where there was, the numbers were documented in the minutes, the average number since SB2 was put in place is 68, 178 versus 68. So it dropped by about, not quite 70% is the amount that attendance declined. The decline is actually somewhat greater than that because the Madison population during that period grew by about 1/3, and yet the attendance dropped by about 60 to 70%. And so the difference is 75 to 80% of the voter participation dropped off since SB2 has been put in place. But I just wanted to provide backup. I said something without providing the specific numbers associated with it, and I did my research as well as I could. Yes?
Marcia McKenna. I didn't ask this question of the school board, but of the $7 million budget, how much is mandated and how much is discretionary, approximately? I mean, it used to be about less than 15% was discretionary and 85% was mandated. And I don't need an exact number, but Mike, you think I'm in the ballpark with that?
When you say mandated, are you also referring to contractual agreements with
Yes,
staff?
yes.
Then yes, I would say you're fairly accurate with that number.
So my concern with not having SB2, and I understand the reasons why it's controversial, is that when people stand up at a school board or a deliberative session like this and want to cut, and I've seen this, $250,000, $300,000 out of the budget, they don't understand that it's not out of the entire budget. It's out of that 15% that they have some discretion on. That's where those big budget cuts have to come from. So with an SB2 format, at least that's protected, I feel, more than at a school board meeting. I'm a former teacher. I've seen what happens when they cut a big chunk out of the budget, and how it's the regular education students and the teachers who suffer because of that. The bigger problem here is the way the state asks us to fund education, that they put out these mandates and put no money behind them. And so to really, I think, initiate a big change. We have to talk to our political representatives at the state and federal level and push for some other form of funding for the schools. But that's a big problem, and that's down the road. But I just felt that once the SB2 format was in place and there was the default budget, it protected the teachers and it protected the regular ed students.
I look forward to the February 11th hearing when I would have the freedom to share a very different perspective. Any other comments or questions? Then I will ask Mr. Price to make the motion for us to adjourn. Any second to that? Say aye. Aye. We are done. Thank you all very, very much.